I'm often asked if different crops should be grown as the climate changes. While certain crops may be impacted locally, on the whole, rather than changing what is grown, focusing on how it is grown through climate smart farming practices will have more of an impact. There are three main ways involving improving natural resources that farms can do to practice climate smart agriculture. The first is to assess and address landscape vulnerability. The second is to improve soil health. And the third is to increase the diversity and health of biological communities both above and below ground. We will go through each of these topics and provide examples of ways to mitigate and adapt to the changes in weather that are happening in our area. Please note that the climate smart agriculture and forestry adaptations discussed in this presentation are focused on what is appropriate for the Northeast. Different techniques might be more suitable for different climates. Before we talk about what works, I want to mention some traditional farming practices that may become increasingly problematic. These include leaving bare soil, tilling in the fall and leaving soil bare over the winter, using a moldboard plow, continuously tilling fields, continuous grazing, farming marginal soils, and adaptations that involve expensive capital that make farming unprofitable and unsustainable. What may have worked in the past may now not work due to the changes we are experiencing in climate. The first step in planning your climate smart farm is to address landscape vulnerability. What do we mean by landscape vulnerability? To determine what is vulnerable, look at marginal parts of your land where growing is difficult due to landscape factors such as soils that are prone to flooding or erosion, shallow to bedrock or other droughty soils, or easily compacted soils. Areas that are hard to farm now will likely get harder and less profitable as the climate changes. They will need either expensive infrastructure to adapt or will be more vulnerable to experiencing soil and crop loss. With the increased rainfall, both in amounts and storm frequency, low-lying and other vulnerable parts of the farm will be more susceptible to damage. A solution could be to take marginal land out of annual production and establish perennial systems. Perennial plants can develop good root structure to hold the soil in place and are better able to withstand a little bit of seasonal flooding. Marginal land may include steep slopes or those areas with highly erodible soil or areas that are frequently flooded or ponded. It may make sense that these areas be put into a perennial system. Perennial systems could include planting berry-producing shrubs that can withstand wetter soils, converting a cornfield on a steep slope to a pasture or hayland, fencing out animals from a floodplain and planting trees to establish a conservation buffer, or creating a wildflower meadow to attract pollinators and beneficial insects. Traditional conservation practices can also be helpful on these marginal lands, such as steep slopes. Areas and permanent vegetation can be very helpful in holding water, building organic matter, and serving as a sponge to absorb and slowly release rainwater. Grassed waterways, diversion berms to slow water, conservation strips, and water and sediment control basins will be even more important in helping the land handle increased rainfall. For more information and to sign up for the Northeast Climate Hub's quarterly newsletter, please visit our website.